Today, I am going to be talking about why I, along with some of you all in my inbox, are going to be leading the charge to get Marvin Lewis named as the next head coach at Morgan State. I'm going to talk about it right after the bumper. Stay tuned. What is good, everybody? What is going on, everybody? My name is JeffLightsyJr here at the Black Boss Channel and Victory Formation. Thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure to hit that thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe, and the notification bell because we upload every single day. Now, there is an opening in the MEAC, head coaching opening at Morgan State University. Morgan State is looking for a new head football coach after their coach, Mr. Wheatley, is now the running backs coach for the Denver Broncos. Now, Morgan State isn't coming off a great year. They went 2-9 last year. The program's not where it needs to be, but this could quickly change. And I think the change could come from an old friend of the Baltimore area. As we know, Morgan State is in Baltimore. And I think Marvin Lewis, yes, the former Bengals head coach, the former NFL coach for years and years as both a defensive coordinator and as a head coach, I think he would be perfect for the Morgan State job. Now, here's why. So Marvin Lewis right now is just a special advisor for his buddy Herm Edwards with Arizona State out in the Pac-12. Arizona State, I'm gonna just be honest, it's going to hell in the handbasket with all the moves that are going on. So Arizona State, Coach Herm Edwards came there. He was doing some good things, but then they got in some trouble with like some recruiting violations during the COVID year, and now they've lost like 5 assistants this offseason alone, including Antonio Pierce, a former NFL linebacker. They've lost Antonio Pierce. They lost like 4 other assistants, and their recruiting class was in shambles because of it, because guys like Pierce and a few other guys left I think Pierce resigned on signing day, so that's like never good, and he was their lead recruiter. He was the head of their recruiting at Arizona State. So Marvin Lewis is a special advisor. He's not doing much out there, and he still wants to coach. Marvin Lewis was on an episode of the Pivot podcast with Channing Crowder, Fred Taylor, and RC Ryan Clark, and he talked about how he still wants to coach, but he spoke about how he wants to coach in the NFL. And I'm going to just be honest. Marvin Lewis ain't getting another shot in the NFL. Marvin Lewis is now 63 years old. Yeah, they ain't hiring 63-year-old black coaches in the NFL anymore. Like, if you see the new wave of NFL head coaching hirings are like the Sean McVay prototypes. That's why his coaching tree, he's only been a coach for like 5 years, and he's got like 4 head coaches that coached up under him. So the Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, Zach Taylor, Matt LaFleur, Hackett, these are the guys that are getting the NFL head coaching jobs. Offensive guys that are in their 30s. That's are the ones they're hiring. They're not hiring 63-year-old defensive coaches as head coaches in the NFL. Black men on top of that. It's just not happening anymore. Good or bad, it's just not. But what is happening is the influx of NFL presence or former NFL guys, whether it's head coaches, players, etc., the presence of them in HBCU spaces and what they are able to do for said HBCU, i.e. Deion Sanders, Eddie George, Hugh Jackson, and now possibly Marvin Lewis. See, Tyron Wheatley also played in the NFL, and it was cool, but he's not Marvin Lewis. Marvin Lewis, one, he spent a lot of time in Baltimore, 6 years as the defensive coordinator at the Baltimore Ravens, so he knows the area. There is plenty of ballers in the DMV area. You don't have to leave DMV to recruit well for Morgan State. The MEAC is wide open. Don't get me wrong. Buddy Pugh and the guys over at South Carolina State, they showed us they got some studs at South Carolina State. They put a bunch of dudes in the NFL. But the MEAC is wide open. And the MEAC needs help. Howard had a really good class, and I think Howard is a team that can compete well with Norfolk State and can compete well against South Carolina State. But the MEAC has lost FAMU. They lost A&T. They lost Bethune-Cookman. They need a jolt of energy. They need a spark. How Deion Sanders gave Jackson State a spark, the MEAC as a conference needs a spark. It was good for them to win on that stage, South Carolina State to win on that stage against Jackson State, against Coach Prime. That helped a lot. But with all these teams defecting, with only playing 5 conference games and not a conference championship, they need something to give them some energy. Marvin Lewis, a guy who coached 16 years as a head coach in the NFL, went to the playoffs 7 times, won 4 division titles. The man can coach. His time in Cincinnati might have been over, but his time as a head coach I don't think should be over. I think Marvin Lewis, with his wealth of football knowledge on top of everything, but his wealth of football knowledge, the way I think he'll be able to recruit, because before all the defections took place at Arizona State, they actually were recruiting really well. Guys like Jaden McDaniels, like those guys could play well, and they were getting some top talent. You wouldn't have to leave the DMV area to get top talent to Morgan State. So the way he can recruit, his football mind, and you guys know what I'm coming with, the resources. Marvin Lewis, spending 16 years in Cincinnati, spending another 6 years in Baltimore, would be another year in Pittsburgh, so he knows that whole area. He would be able to provide to your university, would be second to none. We've seen what Coach Hugh Jackson has been able to do with Grambling. Coach Hugh Jackson, who was close with who? Marvin Lewis. They call each other best friends. They are really good friends. Coach Hugh has brought that same energy, that same spark to Grambling and poured those resources, have gotten people, we played the clip, has gotten people to dig in their pockets and give to his cause, to give to the Grambling football team, and all it's done was help them go out and get the largest recruiting class in the history of their program. I think they signed 38, 39 kids, not to mention flipped a kid from Texas, not to mention they got the #1 dual threat quarterback in the state of Florida, not to mention recruiting the hell out of Southern California down to Grambling in Louisiana. This is what Hugh Jackson's been able to do with Grambling, and he's a better example of when Marvin Lewis, who had success he had way more success as a head coach than Hugh Jackson at the NFL level. He coached a ton more players than Hugh Jackson at the NFL level as a head coach. He won division titles. He went to the playoffs several times. He coached pro bowlers, all pro players. Imagine what he'd be able to give to Morgan State. Now, granted, he has to want the job. He's holding out hope that he'll get another chance in the NFL. I hate to break it to you, Marvin. It's not going to happen. It's just not. Like I stated earlier, they're not hiring 63-year-old head coaches in the NFL after being removed from the league for about 5 years now. Not doing that anymore. They're hiring a young 30-something offensive guys, not 60-something black defensive guys in the NFL anymore. It's just not what they're doing. But go to a program where you can actually make a difference, where you actually actually impact lives, continue to help make this change at the HBCU level. This is my plea to Marvin. Marvin has no idea that I'm doing this. I have no connections to Marvin Lewis. No, none of that. This is just an aspiration. This is just something I would wish would happen. Now, the chances of this happening are pretty slim, but a lot of things just line up. Now, maybe Marvin wants to stay out in Arizona because it's warm all the time, and he ain't trying to come back to the East Coast where it snows a lot. And so maybe that's the thing after spending so many years out this way. But man, oh man, what he would be able to do for the Morgan State program, the resources he'd be able to bring to the university, just look at what Hugh's doing at Grambling. That's your best example. Because Marvin Lewis and Hugh Jackson, they're cut from the same cloth. Like I said, they're best friends. And what is Hugh is doing at Grambling, I think Marvin could do something very, very similar at Morgan State, and we could keep this thing rolling. That's just one suggestion. I'm sure you guys leave your thoughts in the comments on my suggestion of Marvin Lewis coming to Morgan State. Leave your thoughts in the comments about who you think should be the next head coach at Morgan State, because I think that is a program that could be a sleeping giant. They didn't have much success. Like I said, last year they went 2-9 during the 2021 season, but that DMV area is full with high-level talent. Like a ton of high-level players come out of the DMV area. The first one that comes to my mind is Chase Young, and there's so many others. But Chase Young, now I'm not saying Marvin or whoever would be able to come to Morgan State and get a Chase Young, but never say never, because I saw Coach Prime go out and pluck Travis Hunter, the #1 player in the country from Georgia, and get him to come to an HBCU, an FCS program. I think Marvin Lewis, could go to Morgan State and make an impact. I saw Hugh Jackson flip a kid from Texas to Grambling, flip other major transfers from Arkansas and LSU to Grambling. I think Marvin Lewis could do something similar in the DMV area. And it would also give us a little bit of parity as far as like name recognition coaches up east, up north, coaches with big names up north, not just in Mississippi and Louisiana, not just in the SWAC, but also in the MEAC. That's why I'm pushing super hard for Tennessee State to join the MEAC. It's so many possibilities. Leave your thoughts in the chat. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Once again, my name is JeffLightsYJr with the Black Boss Channel. Subscribe to the Black Boss Channel and to my YouTube channel. Also, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at JLightsy7, on Twitter and Instagram at JLightsy7. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you next time. Peace.